Live in the Command HQ with two raging intellectuals.
Live on YouTube and Twitch.
Exposing the predator class with Brock and Agent X. Streaming live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's
Hey, welcome to Command HQ. It is January 3rd, 2023, and the new year has begun. People have returned to work. The world is getting back to a bit of normalcy after the holiday break. Agent X, a couple of stories.
Yeah, bro. A lot of stuff going on right now. I told you to pay attention last week. Keep your eyes peeled. That shit was going to start hitting the fan, and that's exactly what's happened.
Okay, so, what strikes me about the government grinding to a halt is that you have kind of a radical wing of the conservative right-wing Republicans doing anything and everything possible to get publicity for themselves at the expense of, more moderate Republicans would be a good way of describing them.
Well,
and maybe this...
I disagree with that. You have people who are voting against Kevin McCarthy who have been, slighted by him. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was booted off off all the committees, so she was basically relegated to a point where she couldn't represent her constituents. You have a lot of Republicans that Kevin McCarthy didn't listen to. They have legitimate gripes with him. And I mean, who would you rather have? Would you rather have this loser, Kevin McCarthy, who's been in Congress forever and hasn't done shit, was wishy-washy on Trump, talked all sorts of shit behind Trump's back, but, was a two-faced coward? Would you rather have somebody like Jim Jordan? I would say Jim Jordan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just surprised that this is happening right now, and this hasn't happened long before we got to this point, because Kevin McCarthy, to me, is just kind of pathetic, and he's incompetent to the extent that he's not adequately standing up for the members in his caucus. He could have done a lot more during the Trump years, and he certainly could have done a lot more during the Nancy Pelosi years, and now he's kind of stepping up as a fall guy, as a straw man, to continue to take the blows as the liberal Democrats, especially as they control the other body of Congress, the Senate, now just kind of use him as their personal sort of scapegoat for whatever they want to blame Republicans for. So, I mean, yes,
I think that they're trying to get a rule through too, that if they do, like, one of the things they're trying to negotiate is that if they vote him in now, that they can remove him based upon a vote of 5 Republicans. Which is kind of wild, but yeah, I mean, this guy's a fucking ghoul, man. I don't know why anybody would support him. He narrowly missed out, a few years ago, and Paul Ryan got it. But what this really is about? It's about grinding government to a halt. So nothing can happen.
do you remember?
It's organized chaos right now.
Do you remember 10 years ago, I believe, when Ted Cruz did this? And he had a lot more energy back then, but I think he did a couple filibusters, and he was really trying. I think they were adopting, or they were gonna vote on some spending packages to fund the government, and he did 24-hour almost. I'm exaggerating, but he did
Yeah,
these
but
really long filibusters.
that was all show though. The filibuster now is, or even then, it was, where they could cut it off at any time, um, with a cloture vote. So that was all theater. This is totally different, man, because they could literally stall out Congress for the next 2 years by not electing a speaker. I sent you a link to that Matt Gaetz
Yeah, let's pull
letter.
it up. It doesn't show up very well. There we go. Okay. Squatter Matt Gaetz seeks to boot Kevin McCarthy out of Speaker's office. Yada yada yada. Okay, so there's a letter here. Which is on Twitter. We have a screenshot. Not now. Okay. Let me zoom into this a little bit so I can see it. My eyes are getting worse and worse as I get older. Okay. I can't read the first name there. Dear Mr. Blanton, I write to inform you that the Speaker of the House, yada yada yada.
This is what it says. I write to inform you that the Speaker of the House office located at the U.S. Capitol building is currently occupied by Representative Kevin McCarthy. As of this morning, the 117th Congress adjourned Sine Die. A speaker from the 118th Congress has not been elected. After 3 undeciding votes, no member can lay a claim to this office. What is the basis in law, House rule, or precedent to allow someone who has placed second in 3 successive speaker elections to occupy the Speaker of the House office? How long will he remain there before he is considered a squatter? Please write back promptly, as this seems Mr. McCarthy can no longer be considered Speaker designate following today's balloting. Dude, what a way to embarrass him, man.
Well, I really want to know. I think I know what Matt Gaetz is angry or has a lot of resentment about as it relates to Kevin McCarthy. But I want to know specifically what Matt Gaetz is thinking. Like, what resentment it is. Is it the fact that he didn't stand up for Matt Gaetz when he was being investigated for some of these campaign finance issues regarding these parties, or is it, a myriad of other issues that could be in play here causing resentment for Matt Gaetz? But again, Matt Gaetz is a strong liner. He gets a lot of flack from both sort of angles for kind of being a frat boy. And so, what do you think is the crux of the issue causing Matt Gaetz to be upset with McCarthy?
I think it's probably because he didn't show him support during some of those investigations. I think McCarthy even made some statements about him. But, he's in this sort of renegade wing of the Republican Party in the House with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the guy from Kentucky, and he's just drumming up publicity for himself. That's all he's really doing.
So you just supported my main takeaway when I started this whole line here, which is that Matt Gaetz is essentially just trying to get publicity for himself while also causing government to come to a screeching halt. And, to be fair to a lot of these politicians, that is their game. I mean, that's just generally how they operate. But, do they really care whether or not government functions or not? In fact, to an extent that they actually get more publicity when government is held in abeyance for whatever vote needs to happen with the speaker here. They get way more coverage, and in fact, they probably get way more political donations too. So, from their base.
So I'm looking at the list. I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't one of um, the people voting against McCarthy. She came out and supported him. Why? Because she wants to be on some of the committees and stuff. But Lauren Boebert voted against him. Yeah, man. I mean, 20 people. I mean, that's not an insignificant number.
By the way, I have my phone number up there, so feel free to call that. We can patch you into the stream. All I need to do is answer my phone now. Please do subscribe to the channel and like the video.
Do you have Pintar screening your calls?
Yes. Our famed Indian intern.
No, he's from
Pintar.
Pakistan, bro. He's from Pakistan.
Well, he's right on the border, though, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I guess you're right. He's one of the dudes who gets out there during the ceremony and does all that like kicking and stuff on the border. You know what I'm talking about?
What ceremony?
Hold on. Jeez, man. You've never seen this?
No.
Here, dude, you're gonna fucking die laughing. Hold on.
Is this kind of how the renegade wing of the Republicans right now is operating, kicking and screaming on the border?
No, man. Here, watch this. This is
political
fucking
ceremony.
Hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. Go to like 40 seconds.
All right, I'm waiting for it. Where is it? Chat. Okay, I'm pulling it up right now. Hey, I'm always careful about pulling up your links. No, that's not it. Where'd you send it?
I sent it to the guest chat.
Did you send the right one?
Oh, fuck, I didn't know. Shit. Oh, hold on. All right, there you go.
All right, pulling it up. Yeah. I'm waiting for it.
Scroll to like 1 minute.
Love it. Crazy. It almost
Dude, is that how you greet all your coworkers?
yeah, I do. Is that how you greet people you see that You
Yep.
know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
We
Man.
got
I
to be
do the
so
highest.
careful on this stream about what we say.
I got to do the highest kicks possible.
This is a very politically correct stream. Hey, I almost want to bring this. This is just a crazy topic. Have you ever heard of the sport car jiu-jitsu?
No.
I saw it and I thought of you, Agent X, because I know how you
Car
like that kind of
jiu-jitsu.
thing. Car jiu-jitsu, yeah. We'll pull it
I
up
don't
some
know.
other time. It's hilarious.
Dude, Marty wants to know: is this coming to America too? Dude, no, that movie was on Netflix, or no, it was on Amazon. It sucked, bro.
Coming to America too. Was it on Netflix?
No, it was on Amazon.
Like Eddie Murphy, was he actually in it? In the
Yep.
sequel?
Yep.
Wow, I must have missed that because that was like one of the best
It was
movies ever
terrible.
made. The
It was
original one.
terrible. Yeah, the sequel was terrible.
I suppose because there's like, Top Gun, the sequel to Top Gun was really good actually, and for some reason they pulled it off. I don't know if it was money, if it was the same, if Tom Cruise basically is in this similar shape, plus 30 years or whatever, but it's so hard to make a sequel.
It was just like a simple story that like a hero who, they kind of tell him he's over the hill, but he's got one more thing to come in and improve and kind of teach the youngsters. And it's just like a very simple like story. It's kind of it has a redemption sort of angle in there too for what happened to Goose in the first movie. But it's just like a very simple, straightforward, no politics. You don't even know what country they're bombing in that movie. There's no politics involved. No woke bullshit. No uh, uh, fifth wave feminism and all that crap.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, she's your queen. I don't know who's your queen, bro.
For sure. There we go. There's a good sound effect. Okay. So what do you know about DeMar? Oh shoot! What do you know about DeMar Hamlin?
Well, I mean, he fucking nearly died on the field last night. It's terrible. I mean, the hit didn't look that hard. It didn't look like it wasn't that it didn't look hard. It didn't look like an abnormal hit. And the fact he got up and fell down, um, it was scary as fuck.
Well, to me, okay, so it's like, why is it such a big story? If this was just not a regular, because it's a very rare situation when an athlete is struck in the chest and they keel over, which happens, every so often. But I don't understand why this is such a big story. I mean, I don't mean to disrespect DeMar Hamlin by any means, but at the same time, I mean, people keel over all the time.
Well, so I was thinking the same thing this morning because, in football we see players get horrific injuries all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
even see
that's
them
another.
we even see them like break their necks and get permanently paralyzed, and the game's never canceled. I think what was scary about this one was he was actually dead on the field, and they used the defibrillator to bring him back to life. I think that's what the difference was. But they tried to cancel Skip Bayless this morning because he was sent out a tweet that was basically like, "This is an extremely important game. How can the NFL postpone it? At the end of the season, yada yada yada." And they fucking just annihilated him.
Yeah, I saw the Skip Bayless stuff, and not to get into sports radio and Skip Bayless and whatever ESPN or whatever. Who
Well,
cares
right.
about
No,
Skip
Marty's
Bayless?
right.
But
He was only so Damar Hamilton was only 24 years old, and then we have
24.
the other NFL player, 38. Sent you the link to that. He was a former NFL player, and he just dropped dead in his kitchen,
Yep.
just kind of like Mike Leach, and he was only 38.
Yeah.
Uche,
Uche Nwaneri.
yeah.
And he was pro-vaccine. His Twitter was filled with his own vaccine attacks on individuals who he alleged were anti-vax, and so he obviously he had the vax clearly. Now he's a big guy, offensive lineman, 6'5", 280, 290.
Hold on, but when was the last time you ever heard of? I mean, this wasn't like 360-year-olds. Think about the three we've had in football, right? Like over the past few weeks. This wasn't like it was like 360-year-old guys who had heart attacks. You had Mike Leach, who was, in his 60s, but he seemed to be in reasonably good health. You have a 38-year-old, and now you have a 24-year-old having heart attacks. When was the last time you ever heard that? There's something going on.
Mike Leach, we'll pull that one up. So Mike Leach was a coach before he died of Mississippi State. Before that, I believe he coached. Who did he coach before that?
Texas Tech and Washington
Texas
State.
Tech. That's right. Okay, so let's see. Mike Leach was like the Bobby Knight of college football, modern day Bobby Knight. So, I mean, he had his limits because in the modern era of college sports, you can't be Bobby Knight. But he was as close to you, as close as possible that you can get to being Bobby Knight without being Bobby Knight. We had, Marty, J.J. Watt as well, having issues with his cardiovascular fitness. And again, like, what's the common denominator here? It's the heart. It's the cardiovascular system. And now, Damar Hamlin, a lot of doctors came out and said this is a very rare issue when the electrical activity of the heart is impacted when it's at a certain stage in its heartbeat, and that this can happen. And that's probably true. I mean, who knows what happened in this particular case until there's more tests and there's more information. But the vaccine here could not have helped. It could not have helped, and it could very well be a contributing factor.
Well, let's just say it's getting too weird. You have all these people just dropping dead. Not just these football players, but I mean, the soccer players weren't dropping dead, but they're passing out on the field. And that's a game where you don't really have the breaks like you do in football. You're constantly running, but it's so frequent that young people are just dropping dead, and it's really scary, dude. So
no, there was like an 18-year-old youth hockey player over here in Minnesota who had a stroke, and it was in the news. How often do you hear that? You never heard that. And then they said that it was a genetic condition, that he had a stroke in like 2017, and all that, obviously could be true, but certainly, again, the vaccine wouldn't help him, and in fact could increase the likelihood that he will sustain, an additional stroke later in his life. And for him, again, it happened when he was 18. So, I mean, I've never heard of a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old having a stroke, but whatever. If there's a genetic condition, but it's almost like they put that in there, and you see in these articles now where they're actually defending against anti-vaxxers in this article. So what does that tell you? I mean, that there's something else at play here. And, you know, I was just startled when, you know, I was listening to Owen Schroyer and say he was talking about Damar Hamlin. He said, oh, well, you know, it would be a conspiracy theory to suggest, and I believe maybe I'm wrong, but I did hear a little bit of this. He blamed it on the medical condition that, you know, if you get a hit to your heart at just the right time, then you can have a heart attack. And for him to say that, especially on InfoWars, I'm just like, I don't know, maybe Owen Schroyer is just not with it. Maybe he just doesn't really understand what's going on. He's just given all of his talking points by, you know, Alex Jones or whatever. But it's the,
You know, it could also be, you know, the virus too has weakened our, you know, basically everyone's been infected by it now, and it could be
it's true.
that,
Could be.
you know, it's uh, you know, kind of weakened our hearts. So I don't know, man. Dude, I just sent you a link to some breaking news.
Let me pull it up. Breaking news. We really got to show some car jiu-jitsu at some point. All right. You got to. So this is definitely not breaking news. If it's.
It is breaking news.
Oh, it is.
You gotta zoom out, bro.
Yep. Trying to. There we go. No, that's not going to work. Wow. Okay. So this is back to the operation sort of paperclip. And Elon Musk just released kind of a supplemental version of the Twitter files today, a few hours ago, where he was talking about the pressure Hillary Clinton and her associated government bureaucrats were placing on Twitter, specifically, I believe, like Homeland Security, like B-list intelligence agencies within the U.S. government. And they were trying to like drum up the whole Russia collusion thing with Twitter and saying that, you know, there was Russian hacking on social media in general. But when it comes to the Operation Paperclip doctrine, as you apply it to Elliot Page and this whole ridiculous trans woke injection into pop culture, there is no better way to do this than to put someone like Elliot Page, who, by the way, I was a big Ellen Page fan, especially in the movie Juno, which was shot and based on whatchamacallit script in Minneapolis. It was a very good movie. She was very, very good in this movie. Now, Elliot Page, if he's going to be put into Superman, what does that tell you? I mean, the movie, people would assume that it would flop. Who knows? You can't really know that until it's out. But what does this tell you about, like, who controls Hollywood?
Can you imagine Superman being... Dude, I could say a lot about it, but that's for another show, man. We have more time. Dude, what do you think about all this news about your boy Koberger?
Okay, so pull that article from the NY Post. Dude, the NY Post is like popping off these Kohlberger articles like I've never even seen before. I've never seen them.
I think
drum up so
this
much
article
coverage.
is fake. I think this article is fake, or the person was lying and they just published weird stuff here. You know, false information. Because he walked in and out of court, and they said that he seemed really normal. But I was, dude, I was thinking of you, man. He was TAing, and they interviewed some of his students on News Nation, and they said that they noticed a change in him because he did grade things pretty hard at the beginning of the semester, but after the murders took place, he just gave everybody 100s. Dude, these people say anything to get on TV. It's fucking nuts.
I know. This is. I was gonna mention this, and I'm glad that we brought up the Kohlberger stuff because I'm a firm believer in evil. I didn't believe that when I was younger, but if all of this is true about Kohlberger, this is pure evil. And to publicize it in the way that the
But
New York Post is
but
publicizing this just gives copycats and a whole bunch of other people
but hold on,
content.
hold on. Let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say he didn't do it, man. And there's a lot of funny facts about this that makes anybody who like looks at it with a discerning eye scratch their head and not one of these bimbo dipshit criminologists or FBI profilers they have on News Nation and Fox News who just fucking talk out their ass and, basically convict this man before he's even had step foot in court. But there's a lot of weird things about it, right? We got the prosecutor. Why didn't the prosecutor could have done one of two things, right? They could have nabbed him before he left because they were following him across the country. So they obviously thought that they were obviously onto him, right? To invest that money, the FBI followed him, or they could have just waited for him to come back, right? Um, School starts next week, so they could
Oh
have just
my God.
waited.
Do you see that? They had the actual footage
Yeah,
from
they
the
have the
traffic stops
body cam.
now. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing. So he was
But
stopped.
yeah, he stopped twice.
Crazy, because I thought that they were denying that he was stopped, but now they actually have the footage from the officers here showing that he actually was stopped and he was driving. And
Yeah.
his dad is here. Is this the same vehicle, by the way, that he's accused of
Yes.
using in Idaho? Wow.
Yep.
So what is it? I mean, the cops could be really contaminating the evidence here by just touching the vehicle.
Well, that's the other thing is if they thought that there was evidence in this car, why would they let this man drive it across the fucking country, right? And do whatever to it. He took it to a shop. Why wouldn't they go ahead and impound that car? They let him drive it across the country. So it makes it seem like here that they keep saying, "Oh, well, under law, we can't release the probable cause." Da, da, da. They have the man in custody. They can release it. They can go on TV and smear the hell out of him, but they can't release the signed document now that they have him in custody. They've
Mm-hmm.
had him in custody. So that's all bullshit. It's because they have a very fucking thin case. Very thin, I would imagine. This case is very, very, very thin, and they're doing this. They did this here to buy themselves time, to make it look like they were doing something. Because you got to remember there was like mounting pressure for them to do something. Because they wouldn't release any information. Um, they weren't communicating with the parents of the victims. Uh, so yeah, I think what we're going to find that this is some dirty police tactics because they wanted time to gin up something against him. And remember, they were going in the to scrub that house down, and we kept hearing, "Oh, a judge stopped it." Well, no, it was Kohlberger's legal team who filed a motion to get in there. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's something I wanted to talk to you about is the scrubbing of the crime scene in Idaho. Now, as much media attention as this case has attracted, for the cops to actually give in to the pressure of the landlord that owned that building, who really wanted to get their property back and maybe even re-rent it. Apparently, that's the impetus used for calling in a crime scene cleanup team. Why, like, what, a month and a half after this happened, suddenly go in and try and just like acid wash or bleach everything, clean the whole scene up, and then
Yeah,
arrest him a week after or whatever?
yeah, when they had the when they admittedly had a suspect that they were planning to arrest, and they were just going to let this sucker get scrubbed. Why? Because they don't want a defense attorney or a defense expert in there um, to look at the scene. I mean, it's fucking. This is dirty, dirty, dirty police tactics. So I mean,
Well,
this guy is likely guilty of sin, right? But it doesn't excuse these fucking dirty police tactics.
let's play, the opposite side there. Let's just say maybe he's, again, obviously he's probably guilty 99.9% based on the evidence they have, but let's just play the other side here and say,
We don't know
well,
what evidence they have. They will
yeah,
release it.
yeah, we don't know what evidence they have. And like, what if he was just in Idaho driving that little Hyundai, right? And he was going over to get like food or something. He was going to a restaurant. Um, and somehow Kaylee Gonclave was his server at the restaurant. And that's how they got his DNA on her, because somehow, maybe maybe she touched something close to him or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing theories out here. And that is the piece of DNA that they used to link him to this crime scene. Now, as improbable as that might sound, if that were to actually be the case, or maybe he's going to raise his defense. And by the way, this is going to be there's going to be so much pressure to live stream this case. This might be the sequel to what happened with I always forget their names this summer in Utah. Brian
Patino.
and Gabby Patina. Yeah. This might be the sequel to that case, except worse. This attracts so much media attention. It might even be bigger than the Depp trial. And it's going to be a huge distraction. But what if that's the defense he raises at trial, is to say, oh, well, it's just, happenstance that my DNA ended up on, one of these victims. Because
I don't
that's
know,
how they
man.
got him, is the DNA.
Your theory is a little far fetched, man. What if he just went and we don't know where the DNA was found, right? Well, was it under one of their nails? Well, that would indicate, yeah, I mean that's probably it's probably him. But what if it was just DNA found in the apartment? He could have been in there. He could have like hooked up with one of them on Twitter or Tinder or something like that. He could have been over there buying drugs. Remember, Kaylee
He was
all
a
of a sudden
heroin
had
addict.
all. Yeah, Kaylee all of a sudden started coming into money, and she said, like, there were articles where her parents said that they took her, like, she took them out to dinner, and it was odd that she was paying. She hadn't started her job yet, but she had paid. Um, she hadn't got any money from her internship, and she was supposed to take like 6 months off and travel to Europe. And she also bought a new, I guess, a newish Range Rover. A lot of weird things, man. I mean,
Wait, she
he
bought
probably
a
could have been
Range
in there.
Rover?
Yeah,
How did she get this money? Like,
yeah, I know. It's the thing that they don't talk about. You got to read
she's a
deep
20-year
down in
old
the art.
college student. Did she have a
Yep,
trust fund or did she have sugar daddies? What's going on here?
exactly. That's the question, man. And the parents said that they didn't buy the car for her. So she could have been dealing drugs. She could have been having some sugar daddies. There's lots of stuff that could have been going on. We all know in the culture of OnlyFans now that um, you know that these kids are doing weirder and weirder stuff.
It's true. And if anything, there's going to be a pullback because you see cases like this come through, and then younger and younger generations, especially if they've been guided to do so by their parents, they're going to pull back on the OnlyFans culture, and it's going to have kind of a receding effect on some of these apps and some of this like sex culture. And it's not like sex culture, it's like virtual sex culture where these women are getting tons of money for literally just doing nothing, but getting a Range Rover and getting that amount of money is excessive, and that would maybe give rise to a motive here. So maybe the motive is that Kohlberger had, maybe he met one of these women, Kaylee Conclave or one of the other ones, and offered money, and maybe he was slighted in some way, and then he had this sort of psychopath reaction to it and became very hostile. And then unfortunately and sadly, this happened. And it's just the one thing that I really dislike about cases like this, though, is that it brings so much media attention that there's going to be copycats. And that's the last thing you want. Like, why does the mainstream media give so much attention to cases like this? Obviously, because it's a distraction, so politicians can get away with stuff, so other things can happen. They can slide other things under the radar. But there's a whole other aspect of this, which is that people are really like, almost there's a fascination with this stuff, and there really shouldn't be. These people should not be, they should not be getting as much attention, in my estimation, that they're getting, even at this rate. Like, I've never seen the New York Post write so many articles in such a short span of time about anyone except for Kohlberger. Have you heard some of the other facts that have come out of this, where like Kohlberger was considered to be a quote brilliant student, and I think his
It's funny, like they don't know which way to paint him, right? Because there's some people who, there's been some like classmates and stuff who've come out and said that he was basically an asshole and he wasn't very smart. And then there's this other narrative that he was like a brilliant student. They don't know which way to play it yet. They gotta gin up a narrative, right?
it's true. Yeah, and then they pick apart all these things, and then especially young women, because they're not as maybe discerning as people who are older and have more life experience, then they just assume that if they see these things in any sort of guy whatsoever, or anyone period, that they must be like Kohlberger. Like, I don't know, Kohlberger was a heroin addict, so if someone else is a heroin addict, oh, I guess he's a Kohlberger. Or if a guy has alpha tendencies and he tends to like bully weaker men, somehow he's a Kohlberger. The fact is they pick apart little details in these cases because A, they know that Kohlberger will never be able to fight back. He'll never be able to file a defamation suit against the New York Post. And B, 99.9% chance he's guilty, so he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. Nothing you can do. And C, I mean, the most important aspect of this is they're actually making money off this. Like the New York Post and Fox News and Rupert Murdoch are making tons and tons of money off cases like this, and that's a sad truth.
Yep.
I want to just finish with the SBF stuff, if you have a little bit of time here, Agent X. The sealed bonds. If you've heard a little bit about that, apparently SBF has asked that two.
Pled not guilty today, right?
He pled not guilty. Yep. Your other Jew,
I don't know
SBF.
What?
Your other Jew, SBF.
Dude, why are you being anti-Semitic, bro?
Kohlberger and SBF. I was gonna say, do you think Kanye is right with the Kohlberger and the SBFs?
Dude, I don't know, bro. I don't even know what you're talking about. Kanye did an interview with your boy Chris Cuomo.
Really?
on News Nation. Yeah.
Running out of platforms. I'm not seeing any.
It was on the New York. I was reading the New York Post, and it was in one of the videos that pops up.
Weird. I guess he's been in hiding, but there's been reports that he's been in Dubai over New Year's. But it would make sense that Chris Cuomo would beg for Kanye West to show up on his show on News Nation because his ratings are failing. You notice how, like, you know, he went on, Kanye West went on Alex Jones, and there's like massive views on it. But then now he's going on all these other shows like Chris Cuomo, and it's all these guys begging for him to come on because their shows are failing. Chris Cuomo's show is definitely going to fail on News Nation. For someone who has a lot of knowledge of Nexstar Media, I do. It's probably going to fail just like CNN is failing, that entire News Nation network. But aside from that, you know, maybe Kanye West is over. Maybe it's going to be, you know, 5 years here before there's sort of a reawakening of Kanye West in pop culture. They're gonna put him in a timeout. So, but SBF's bond situation gets to keep cosigner secret, just like Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yep.
And there's that.
Federal courts are corrupt, bro.
Everybody knows who it is, though, who signed his bond. So, all right. Well, Agent X, anything else before we?
Dude, you gotta start these streams earlier, so I don't fall asleep, bro.
I'm trying.
That's all I got, man.
Okay. We will. Thanks for the comments, Marty. We will see you later this week, and like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. Let me find my ending slide.
No calls on the number, bro.
No call-ins on the number.
Dude, tell us about your setup. Tell us about your audio setup before you go.
Well, look, I'm gonna get an Ableton Push 2. Gonna have some looped sound effects. Bought a Mac Studio with like 64 GPU cores in it. $6,000 computer.
Bro,
Mac
what do you
Studio.
have?
Mac Studio.
You have a Mac Studio, bro?
Yeah, 64 cores. GPU cores.
Dude, I doubt
Couple
that.
of Brio 4K cameras. A number of mounts here. I actually have like 2 or 3 of these Brio cameras. I should do an overhead shot sometime. Tons of lights. But your Testcom Mixmaster for Collins, yeah.
Dude, that board is it's the best on the market.
Everything like, you really have to be an expert with this stuff. Like, getting into streaming for me, and I'm pretty technically competent. Like, usually if it involves setting something up, I can handle it. But it does take anyone, even young people who are like have tons of energy and tons of focus, takes people a long time to figure out how to do streams when you're dealing with a lot of this stuff. So the best tactic is to keep it as simple as possible.
Dude, we know that you're full of shit now because Dude, the Mac Studio with a 64 core GPU costs $5,000. No way
Yeah,
you
it's a
have it.
$6,000 computer.
There's no way you spent $6,000 on a fucking
Micro
Apple.
Center. Micro Center. I have 1/2 words for you.
There's no way you spent $6,000 on what is essentially a glorified Mac Mini.
Money grows on trees, though, right?
Maybe for you, bro, not the rest of the world. Dude, you have a Mac Mini with 8 gigs of RAM. Don't lie.
Well, let me say this. I am pretty cheap. I'm very thrifty. I don't like spending money. But, and I don't really think money is that important. But when it comes to streaming, you might as well just blow it all, right?
Why didn't you just have a custom build with a 4090 in it, bro? And a Ryzen Threadripper.
I did look into a Threadripper, yeah. It's like a $10,000 machine, though.
Yeah, dude, why not go ahead and go for it if you're gonna spend $6-7 on a Mac Mini?
Well, that is a good argument. And I would say that the alternative to a Mac Studio, a high-priced one, is to just get a Threadripper, get 128 cores on your CPU, and then get a separate graphics card like a TI 4090, tons of GPU cores. Then you can do sort of any AI, machine learning, whatever you need to do. But the problem is just like what we were talking about yesterday, if you're not getting a base model, it becomes harder to support that CPU, and software starts to fail on that higher end hardware. So yeah, for videos and stuff and video editing, a Threadripper would be perfect. But will it work with OBS? Will it work with other streaming software? Most people who stream use OBS on Windows machines.
Well, dude, I gotta go to bed, bro.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Kind of light with powers and properties unlike anything that existed before. Laser light.